So, welcome everyone to the class of Quantitative Methods for Management. This is Amit Kumar Singh, your instructor for this subject. Let's start this class. So, when we talk about statistics, statistics is all about working on data. So, statistics is often called the language of data, where the data can be either quantitative or cardinal in nature, or it can be ordinal or qualitative in nature. So, basically, in statistics, what we do, we convert the data into information so that our journey can start from the data collection to organization of data to analysis, and then it end with the interpretation of data. So guys, in your opinion, why it is important to understand statistics in today's world? So think about its use in our daily decision making, or in business perspective, or even in sport. So how do you think learning about this subject, working on its meaning, scope, application, characteristics and functions could add value to your personal and professional life? So at the end of this topic, you will be able to explain the meaning of statistics, discuss the scope and application of statistics, outline the characteristics of statistics, list down the functions of statistics.
Now, going further, we'll first introduce the term statistics. So, statistics, as I told you, it's a language of understanding data. And this language is basically it's a branch of applied maths that involve collection, description, analysis, and inference of conclusions from the quantitative data. So, guys, you know that statistics is a language of data. Data can be quantitative in nature, it can be qualitative in nature. So in order to work on statistics, we need to define the data in the quantitative form. Then only working on the data will make more sense. It helps us to make analyzing raw data where we can come up with it logical, or we can draw conclusion from this raw data so that we could identify trend and we can predict the future, so that could help us in making an informed decision. Now, discussing the importance and application of statistics. So, talking about the importance and application of statistics, statistics is essential for managers and decision makers who rely on data to justify their choices and strategy. So, by analyzing data patterns and trends, statistics basically help a business to predict future outcomes. It helps business to measure their performance, and it works to identify the area for improvement. Discussing the application of statistics. So statistics play a very critical role in our daily lives, especially in business. It is essential for managers and decision makers who rely on data to justify their choices and strategies. So the statistical model provides a foundation for making an informed decision rather than simply relying on assumptions or gut feeling. So it is so when we are working on statistics, easily solve our problems which can belongs to any domain. Okay, so because statistics is all about data, and here you're talking about numerical form of the data. So if you could define our problem in numerical form, then solving it by using mathematical model would be much more easier, and thus it help us to support and validate our decision making skills. Going further, since statistics work on making an informed decision rather than relying on assumptions or gut feeling, does it minimize any guesswork? By analyzing these trends and patterns, the statistics help the businesses to predict future outcomes. It works to measure the performance and identify the area for improvement. In this way, statistics serves as a tool for decision making, offer evidence which can based on business strategies. So, guys, talking about the relevance of this subject, statistics is fundamentally driven by the variation data, where it helps to analyze or to work or to understand and interpret the difference in the pattern within the data sets. So when we are understanding and defining the type of variation, we can have a natural variation or we can have a man-made variation. So basically, statistics is fundamentally driven by variations which present in the data, which can be observed in every aspect of life. Either we talk about physical transformation to the physical features to the economic parameters. These variation undergoes the importance of statistical analysis, and thus it allows us to understand and interpret the differences and patterns within the data sets. So when we are talking about the type of variation, either it can be natural variation. Natural variation refers to the differences that occur naturally within the population or data sets. For example, physical attributes like height and weight, which can vary widely between individuals due to their genetic factors, environmental conditions, and other so these type of variation is inherent and offer follow recognition pattern which can be analyzed statistically. Talking about the man-made variation, a man-made variation on the other hand is driven by human actions and decisions. Examples include variation in educational qualification, household income, or employment status. These factors are influenced by social, economic, and political conditions and can be studied to identify trends, disparities, and impact of various policies or intervention. So, guys, when we are talking about the purpose of statistics, it is to use the basic study and working of analyzing these variations, which can help us in identifying underlying patterns and drawing meaningful conclusions. So, guys, by understanding how data varies, statistics enable us to make informed decision. It help us to predict outcomes and solve problems across various domains, various fields from healthcare to businesses. The purpose of studying the subject statistics is to work on data so that we can study and we can analyze variations so that we can identify underlying patterns and thus we can make a meaningful conclusion. That's it. So, guys, going further, if I talk about the importance of statistics in modern business world, so you can bring a mathematical equation here where if you can bring advanced communication network and if you bring that with shifting consumer behavior, what you get is basically complex decision making. So in today's rapidly evolving world, advanced communication networks and shifting consumer behavior have made decision making increasingly complex. So with the speed at which the information is changing, businesses face multitude of variation and uncertainties, which does it make it very difficult for them to make a well informed decision based on intuition alone. Okay. So here going further, if we are talking about how we can navigate this form of complexity, the managers are ultimately preferred to work on quantitative techniques that allow them to make data driven strategies and decisions. So that way the managers need to know what is statistics and they need to deploy different kind of techniques of statistics. Those techniques, what we talk about it is based on mathematical model. It is basically an application of operation research. Okay, it basically works on econometric. In addition to statistics, other techniques such as mathematical model, operation research, and econometrics are increasingly used here, where mathematical model provides a structured way to represent and analyze real world problem, guys. Does it help managers to predict outcomes and make decision based on quantitative data? Talking about operation research is applied to optimize business processes. It basically help us in resource allocation and logistic. Does it help manager to improve efficiency and minimize cost? Now, discussing very new domain of economics where we are applying the logic of statistics and economics together to define econometrics, which uses statistical method to analyze economical data and relationship. Does it provide insights into market behavior, financial decisions, and policy impact? So, by relying on these tools, managers can reduce uncertainty, they can make more informed decisions, and improve business outcomes in an increasingly complex environment, guys. Now, defining statistics as defined by Dr. Edward A. Saylor is that statistics is a motivation research which refers to collection of qualitative research techniques used to prove into consumers' mind in order to uncover the subconscious or latent motivations and aspirations that underpin daily consumption and buying behavior. Now, when we are working on statistics, Here we talk about statistics. The first step of statistics is to define the collection of a data. When we work on statistics is a research, and in order to do a research, we need data. When we want to work on a data, first thing first, we need to collect the data. So when we talk about collection of data, collection data basically involves gathering numerical data from various sources, which could include surveys, experiment, observations, or record. Thus, the accuracy and the relevance of the data collected are essentially for the meaningful analysis. Then, the next step after the collection data is the presentation of the data. So, here, organizing and displaying the data in a clear and comprehensive manner is the way of presenting the data. This could involve using table, chart, graphs, or other visual tools that make the data easier to understand and interpret. So the guys, once we collected the data, and then when we presented the data in a meaningful and comprehensive manner, in a simple understanding, then the next part is to analyze the data. So when we talk about analysis of the data, it is all about applying statistical technique to explore and summarize the data. So basically, the goal here is to identify pattern, trends, and relationship and anomalies within the data set of which we work to define terms like measure of central tendency, measure of dispersion. Going further, the next step after collection, presentation, analysis is the interpretation of data. So finally, once we have done the work of collection, presentation, analysis, the next part is to work on interpretation. So finally, statistics provides insight by interpreting the result of the analysis. So the interpretation involves drawing conclusions and making predictions or decisions based on the data. So, guys, when we work on statistics, here in defining statistics, we need to work on first the collection of data, then we need to work on a presentation of data, then we need to work on analysis on data, and then after the analysis, the last part is the interpretation of the data. So, guys, now discussing the scope of statistics. So, first, the statistics can be either descriptive statistics or it can be inferential statistics. So, descriptive statistics refer to the set of methods which is used to summarize, organize, and present the data in a way that is easy to understand. Okay, so it basically helps us to provide an overview of the data set by calculating key measures and presenting the data in much more usual manner. So here the key measures in descriptive statistics are central tendency. So central tendency basically describes the central or the center part of the data set, providing a typical value that represent the data. So these measures describe the center of a data set, which ultimately help us to define terms like mean, median, mode. Already we will talk about mean, median, mode in our further session. For the right now, getting an understanding of mean, median, mode is more than enough for you. Mean is basically the arithmetic average of the data points, while the median is the middle value when the data is arranged in an order, while mode is the value that occur most frequently in the data set. Now, talking about dispersion, the other key measure in descriptive statistics is the dispersion, and dispersion measures the spread or variability of the data, showing how much the values deviate from the center. Okay, it includes range, which is the difference between the highest and lowest value in the data set. It includes variance, which is the average of the square difference from the mean, showing how spread out the data is. It is about it talk about standard deviation, which is the square root of variance, representing the average distance of data points from the mean. So, talking about the application of descriptive statistics, it basically summarizes the survey result. Okay, so descriptive statistics is often used to summarize the results of survey. Thus, it provides a clear picture of trend, averages, and distributions. Okay, so it analyzes data distribution. So basically, it helps us in understanding the shape and spread of data, whether it is skewed, asymmetrical, or normally distributed? Does it help in further analysis or decision making? Now, after descriptive statistics, the next part of the statistics, what we need to discuss is the inferential statistic. Inferential statistics involves drawing conclusions and making predictions about a population based on the data from the sample. Okay, so the key techniques in inferential statistics, first is hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing involves making an assumptions or hypothesis based on a population parameter, and then by using sample data we need to test whether the hypothesis is true or false. So the common test here include a t-test, chi-square test, ANOVA. Okay, now talking about the application of inferential statistics, which we'll discuss later on, but here I'll give you the viewpoint. The viewpoints are predicting election outcomes, estimating average income. The next here, the application, what we need to discuss about inferential statistics is the confidence interval. So a confidence interval provides a range of values that likely contain the true population parameter, offering a measure of uncertainty about the estimate. For example, we might estimate the average income of population, which can be between 50,000 rupees to 55,000 rupees with 95% confidence. Then the next part to discuss is the regression analysis. The regression analysis is the technique which examines the relationship between variables which allow to make predictions. Like, for example, linear regression can predict future trend by modeling the relationship between independent and dependent variables. Now, as I mentioned before, that I'll talk about the application of inferential statistics. So the first application what we can discuss is the predicting election outcomes. So like about polling data, and polling data from the sample of voters can be used to predict the likely outcome of an election. Thus, it helps us in estimating the proportion of votes for each candidate. Okay, the inferential statistics also help us in estimating the average income, like a sample of individuals' income, which can be used to estimate the average income of an entire country along with the associated confidence interval. Now, guys, now talking about the scope of statistics, the image what you can see, it's talking about the two main branches of statistics, which we have defined already. It can be descriptive statistics or it can be inferential statistics. Talking about descriptive statistics, it basically here represented by a donut chart or a pie chart with a hole in the middle. Here this chart is divided into three sections which are labeled 35%, 30 and 35%, showing how data is summarized and presented. So descriptive statistics involve organizing, summarizing, and visualizing the data using graph, charts, and numerical measures like mean, median, and mode. Now discussing about the inferential statistics, which is on right side. So here the inferential statistics basically is being represented by an probability distribution graph with multiple curves in different color. Either here the different colors are green, blue, and orange, where the inferential statistics involve making predictions, testing hypotheses, and drawing conclusions about the population based on a sample data. Okay, so the different curves likely represent a different distributions, comparisons, or confidence interval in statistical inferences. So, guys, here the important part to understand is that the descriptive statistics help us in understanding the feature of a data set through visualization and summarization, while inferential statistics uses probability theory to make generalization and predictions beyond our basic understanding of the data. Discussing here, when we talk about the application statistics, we use statistics in economics where the principle of index number, estimation theory, time series analysis, which all we have studied in statistics or we will understand while studying statistics will be used in economics for issues related to wage, price, and income distribution. Okay, statistics is used in biology and medicine, where through studying like growth, migration patterns, effect of treatment and medicine, experimental data, impact of variables on health outcomes, and predicting future trends all can be worked on because of the understanding of statistics. Okay, statistics is used in agriculture. Does it help in optimizing productivity through the analysis of crop yield, soil condition, and the use of fertilizers, which enables farmers to make informed decisions. Okay, we use statistics in inference by you studying actuarial science for premium calculation based on demographics and mortality rate. The concept of probability theory and risk assessment model help insurers to make informed decisions. Okay, we use statistics in businesses where working on terms like analyzing price, demand, production, cost of living index, all the application statistics is ultimately used in businesses for informed business decision making and economic planning. We use statistics in quality control, where techniques such as statistical policy control help in identifying variance in quality, where it provide critical insights and tools to make data driven decisions, managing risk and ensuring quality. Now, talking about the perspective of statistics is all about aggregate of facts. Okay, so when we work on statistics, we cannot work on single data. We need lot of data. Okay, then it is affected by the multiple causes, like various factors influences statistical data. Okay, so altogether, all the factors ultimately many times confuse the researchers. Okay, but more or less, statistics is all about implying the knowledge of all possible causes, and that way working on data will make much more compatible and easily to come up with a production. So here example can be here, like if I talk about the yield of a crop, it get influenced by multiple factors like soil, rainfall, and fertilizers. When we are talking about the features of statistics, the statistics, as I defined already, in order to work on statistics, the data should be quantitative in form. So statistics require numerical data, okay, where qualitative data like eye color cannot be considered statistics. Okay, so in order to work on any such form where we have a data which is not numerically represent, we need to convert that into numerical form. We need to convert qualitative data into quantitative data. Then, whenever we work on statistics, here we work on data, and the data measured or estimated with appropriate accuracy, which is based on its purpose. The whole idea here is to work on statistics is to estimate accurately whenever we work. So now we talk about statistics, where in the case of statistics, data must be gathered to using planned and scientific methods so as to ensure accuracy and minimizing error. Like survey data, when it's being done, it sometimes lack a clear methodology and it may not accurately represent the population. So whenever any statistical application or research is basically done, defining objectives for the research is very important. Now, when we talk about statistics, the first step in order to work on statistics is the data collection, and the data collection should have a clear purpose just to avoid indiscriminate gathering. Example like collecting data about consumer preferences without clearly defining what specific factors are being assessed result in inconclusive finding. Okay, so whenever we work on data, so once the collection data is done, then the next part is the organization and classification of data, where the data should be organized to highlight the relationship, trends, or comparison for a meaningful analysis. Like sales data should be analyzed by time, regions, and product type to identify trends. Now, discussing the functions of statistics here, The first function what we need to talk about here is that the functions of statistics are crucial for making sense of complex data and using them to make informed decisions. So when we are talking about the various functions, statistics basically simplifies mass data. So one of the function statistics is to condense large data sets into manageable and understandable form. For example, complex data can be simplified using frequency table or graph like histogram and pie chart, which make it easier to interpret. So guys, by summarizing the data, statistics allow us to grab essential trend or pattern without getting overwhelmed by raw numbers. Okay. So the next function statistics to work on is statistics basically identifies trends and tendencies, where by identifying patterns and trend over time, it allow for a deeper understanding of a data. For example, in economics, statistical analysis can reveal trends in inflation rates, employment, or stock prices. So by analyzing the data over different periods, it is possible to predict future behavior, such as identifying the likelihood of rising demand or market fluctuation. Thus, these insights is valuable for decision making, forecasting, and policy planning. Next, it basically reveals hidden relationships. So statistical methods can uncover hidden relationship between variables that might not be immediately obvious. For example, in correlation analysis, it shows the connection between two seemingly unrelated variables, such as the relation between education level and income. So, guys, by examining how different factors interact, statistics provide deeper insight that may lead to more informed conclusions or decisions. In field like healthcare, it can reveal how certain factors like lifestyle or environment affect the patient outcomes. Now, going further, defining the statistics, the function of statistics there is that it facilitate decision making. That way, when we work on statistics, it provides valuable insight through various statistical methods and tools. Like, for example, business can use descriptive statistics like mean or median to understand consumer behavior and sales performance. So, the statistical model and predictive analysis what we use or a manager of a company use to assess the potential risk and outcomes before making decisions. So by using reliable data, businesses can make more accurate forecasts, reduce uncertainty, and ultimately improve outcomes, whether in marketing, finance, or operation. Now, when we work on statistics, it basically provides tool for comparison, making it easier to analyze and contrast different data sets like measures centered tendency, which include mean, median, mode, and measures of variations, which include variance and standard deviation, help in summarizing and comparing data from multiple sources where they offer insight into similarities and differences. For example, comparing average monthly sales across different regions can help in identifying areas of strength or potential for improvement. Now, working on the limitation of statistics. So basically, limitation of statistics highlight the context of statistical analysis and its applicability. While the statistics provide valuable insight, it is important to understand its limitation. First limitation is that it does not deal with qualitative data, which I'm talking from the slide one, is that statistics primarily focuses on the numerical data, which means that it cannot directly handle qualitative data such as color, opinion, or behavior. Okay, like you can understand that whenever we work on qualitative data, it is important to convert them into quantitative form. So statistics does not deals with individual facts. So whenever we work on statistical analysis, we cannot work on a single data point. For that, statistics provide insights on trends and pattern within the data set, but it cannot give precise conclusion about individual cases. For example, while the average income of a group of people can be calculated, The statistical cannot precisely predict the income of a specific individual. This relies on the fact that statistical conclusions are more generalized and may not apply to every individuals in the data set, because statistics is all about averages. Now, statistical inferences are not exact, means that they indicate trends or pattern within the dataset, but do not guarantee exact or precise outcome. Okay, for any kind of cases. For example, while the hypothesis test might show that a drug is effective for the majority of patients, it does not guarantee that it will work for every individual. So, statistical analysis often deals with probability and general trends. Thus, it measures that is there any kind of uncertainty or margin which can exist while drawing errors or by drawing conclusions from the data sets. Going further, whenever we talk about statistics, the problem with using the statistics is that it have the potential for misuse and misinterpretation, where incorrect methods or lack of understanding in applying a statistical technique can lead to false conclusion which may misinform decision making. Okay, so for example, like selecting in an appropriate statistical tool, a font to account for confounding variables or misinterpreting results which can skew findings. A common example is using an average to represent data which is highly skewed and which can lead to misleading conclusions. So then next thing is that in order to work on statistics, we need expertise, okay, where the effective use of statistics demands specialized knowledge and expertise, where statistical techniques such as regression analysis, hypothesis testing, and sampling require a solid understanding of both the theory behind them and the practical aspects of the data. It can be from collection to interpretation. Without appropriate expertise, there is a risk of making it an error in the analysis, such as misapplying models, overgeneralizing a sample, or failing to understand the assumptions underlying statistical method. Now, working on the application part of statistics, like we have a lot of software which actually can handle large data sets. Okay, that does the manual analysis of large data set can be converted into other forms so that we can save time and avoid less errors. So basically, statistical software efficiently provide a vast data with precision, minimizing mistakes. Now, going further, there are a lot of statistical packages are there. There are a lot of statistical packages are there. We can use them like Python, R, SPSS. Okay, so they offer features that allow users to manage complex data set, run sophisticated analysis, and generate many conclusions very easily. So thus the process with millions of data and applying advanced techniques such as regression analysis, hypothesis testing, and time series forecasting without the need for manual calculation. All that is possible because now we are coming with lot of software packages which can solve even 200-year maths problem. So thus these softwares are much more compatible or they could able to work in solving any complex data analysis by applying the basic principles of statistics what we have studied. So these tools ultimately save time and enhances accuracy. It enable a faster insights in field like healthcare, marketing, or medicine or research. So we can have softwares like Minitab, SPSS, eViews, which enhances data or statistical analysis and where they work in enabling efficient, accurate data process. So these tools ultimately simplify handling large data sets where it enable quick data import, cleaning, and transformation, which are crucial for field like healthcare, economics, and businesses. Now it include efficient data management, quick and accurate analysis, enhanced visualization and reporting. Now, these are the name of few statistical software which you can use in your day-to-day life to basically develop the process of how statistics can be applied in the real world in the domain of business.
In this topic, we have learned about the importance and application of statistics. When it comes to statistics, statistics is essential for analyzing data variation, and also it is helpful for identifying patterns and supporting our decision making across various fields like business or economics, even in medicine. Now, we have discussed about types of statistics. Either it is descriptive, which summarize the data using measures like mean and standard deviation. Next point we have discussed in this class was about inferential statistics. So, inferential statistics is all about drawing conclusions and making predictions from sample data using hypothesis testing and regression analysis. So guys, I hope you have understood this important subject called statistics, and in this class we have just introduced this concept called statistics. So I hope you have learned all the concepts what we have discussed. So it's time to wind up this session. Thank you everyone. Happy learning.